Hey everybody, I am sitting here with the high energy Kamie Lehmann, and we're going to discuss her journey on how she's monetizing her podcast called She's Invincible. She's doing some pretty incredible things in just over a year of being a podcaster, so I'm excited to share her insights. Kamie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's so great to be here.
Awesome. Well, just give us like the 30-second rundown of why you started a podcast and then how you got to the 0 to 1, like your story of inception, if you will.
Yes, yes. So I was launching a membership community. I was in a group and I was learning how to build webinars and I absolutely bombed it. But my webinar teacher said, "Hey, I know you want to do a podcast and the group that I went through is launching another program and I think you should do it now." And so I was a dropout in one and I leaped into the next. Honestly, had no business doing that. I knew nothing about anything and was the least techie person you've ever spoke to, I promise. So, but I am a business coach and I'm pretty smart and I don't think too much. So I jumped right in and it really turned out great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the short story.
A plan B leading into what has now been very successful, and you're, like you said, a business coach now, helping other people launch podcasts and stuff. So tell us about your first dollar from the podcast. When did
Oh.
you make your $1?
Yeah, so it was before I actually launched my podcast. It was in the process of creating. I was in a 28-day program in the process of creating that podcast. That's when I started already targeting my, target market. I was really attracting them, drawing them to me. So that money came really quickly and I thought, maybe this is a thing. And so that's really how it started. You try something and it works and you think, hey, this thing could fly, right? And that is what happened. So it happened before, which is super fun.
Yeah. So was that like during interviews where you're interviewing your target market and then one thing led to another, you had that relationship, you built upon it, made sales that way?
Absolutely. Yes. And that has been just one of the jewels of having a podcast. And just like I said, just one of them. But yeah, through just, talking to people, building up the hype, and then doing interviews and really looking for people that I wanted to bring on. I'm pretty particular about that and the process that I do. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
How like when you're looking at your potential target market to bring on your podcast, can you break down just a little bit about what your target market is and then how you go about finding them to make sure that you're bringing on the best people?
Yes, I would love that. So, so my target market is women, mostly women over 30 years old who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or they're wannabes. They've always wanted to have their own thing and they just haven't yet done that. So that's my target market. I am a business coach, so I help women launch businesses through the podcast. I just through that group and through the process, I started also helping people launch top podcasts. So I kind of morphed into that on the side, and that became like a passion. But I've been a business coach for over 20 years, so that's really how that developed.
Awesome. So in your podcast, you got into you cracked the top 50. Was it all in the business entrepreneur category in the U.S.? Is that correct?
Yes, it was, which is so fun. And in fact, we're still on the charts today, 16 months later. So I love that. And so what I was going to, what I'd love to tell you is as far as, finding the people. So I worked, in creating the podcast. First was the who, right? Who is my show for? Who am I trying to attract? And then it was the where. Where do I want to take these people, right? So I'm going to build this following, and then where am I going to take them? And then it's what, right? What am I going to teach them or tell them or expose them to? And then why, right? So why should they follow me? Why should they listen to my show? And so I built that in the very beginning. And I think really the energy shifts when you start being really intentional like that. You're calling out what you're looking for and it is just dropping in your lap. So if it's not, you just haven't been clear yet. You need more clarity, right?
Yeah. And if you're really clear about when you're reaching out to people and say, hey, this is who I'm looking for, and I'm reaching out to you because this is who I'm looking for, you match it because people know people like themselves, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of networking that happens when you get one good guest, it leads to another one. Can you tell us a little bit? Do you have a process through networking with people that you've already been in contact with?
I do, and it's crazy. This is like a podcaster's dream. But when when you launch a top podcast and when you keep your podcast on the ranking, you don't have to look for guests. Guests come to you. So if you look at my podcast right now, I have 76 episodes live. So just over a year. Most of the people from about the 20th episode on were people I did not know. And those are people that are out there paying agencies to get them on a podcast. So the agencies are finding the She's Invincible podcast because we've been ranking all year, and then they're coming to me. So I'm getting 3 to 5, introductions a day from agencies. So my guests are already screened and vetted. And so now I just need to look at them that next level to say, do they have the same target market that I have? Because let's face it, when I bring a guest on, we're sharing, right? They're sharing my podcast with their audience, and they're sharing me, and I'm doing the same. So we're sharing the audience. And I think that's what makes it so successful, and why I'm able to, generate this income, because that part is out of the way. So, I can't stress the most that you want to get your podcast ranking so that people are just coming to you all the time.
Totally. So I want to get into the monetization part of it, but before we do that, I know people are sitting on the edge of the seats like, how in the world did you get ranked in the top 50? What goes into that? Can you speak to, like, do you even know, I guess, what went into that, and when did you rank? It sounds like it was pretty quick.
Yes, I'd love to talk about that. And I might say I actually teach this now. So I have students that I work with, whether they want to launch a podcast or they have one that never really took off. And we do, some things that we can put into place that will help them go ahead and get on the ranking. So it's never too late. So if you're that person thinking like, oh, I missed the boat, you did not miss the boat. So there's many things that you do. One is all about hype, right? Social media, creating excitement and a following for your launch day, making it a big, huge ordeal, right? Launch day is a big ordeal where you have many supporters. And I had launch partners that were people that committed to me that they would help me promote my podcast on my launch day. And, you do that in many ways. I did it through relationship building. That's just what I'm really, really good at. But people do it even just giving away freebies. Like, hey, I'll give you this free information that's going to help you in your business if you'll just, share my podcast this day. So there are different ways that you can do that. But that is what it's all about. Yeah. It's about downloads and ratings and reviews as soon as you launch. And that's what drives it up. My podcast ranked on the first day, and by the third day, it was number 42 on iTunes. So it's been really cool. But like I said, like, that's amazing, and you want that, and you want to keep that going, and that comes through consistency. Same day, same time, right? Same message to the same target audience. Those are the things that keep those people following you loyally. Yeah.
So do you remember, like, how many downloads you got on day 1 through day 3?
I didn't even track that. Honestly, I promise you, and I don't even know if I can go back and do that now. Like, the things that I tracked were, like, where I ranked and how I moved up. I think the first time I saw, I was, like, in the 200s, and then it was 163, and then it was 42, or 48, and then 42. Like, that's what I was tracking. I think that, when you get caught up in all those other things, that doesn't really serve you well. I think you just find the one thing, and then you push on that one thing. All of those things combined do play into it, but I was just pushing as hard as I could with everything that I had. And it's a lot of setting up ahead of time, just having it in order, sending out the messages, doing the social media posts. Like, it's all the things you learn when you're trying to build anything. And then you just apply it to that one thing.
Yeah. Awesome. It's a lot of setup. It's that overnight success that people have that are, years in the making or months in the making, and then on the one day, it happens
it
for
is
them.
True.
So, well, cool. and congratulations on that. I want to get into the monetization part of this show because you're getting, we were talking off air over the course of the last 16 months or so, you've had a total of like 10,000 downloads. You're having people funnel into your business, obviously with launching podcasts, starting their own business, being a business coach. That makes sense. But you're also doing high ticket ad sales as well. So can you go into a little bit of the ad sale part and when you started doing that? Was it right from the get-go? And
yeah,
we'll
so I've never done paid ads, ever. So I've not ever done paid ads. Everything I've ever done has been organic, and it has all been just through my podcasting and drawing those people in. So I've not paid for that, but I've sold high ticket programs. So that's what my offer is a year-long high ticket program. And I also have a 30-day podcast visibility program that I sell. So those are the two things that I am drawing people to. And then that's how I sell them through. Sure. And those are through conversation, drawing people through, and staying on top of social media. So many times we get messages from people and then we're like, hey, thanks, right? So we don't go that next level or that, the next layer to say like, well, hey, what's going on with you? How are you doing? And that's what you did with me, right? Yeah. You did that by, introducing yourself and saying who you are and asking me about my podcast. And so you've got to really dig into those layers to really get to the conversation. But as long as you're having the conversation, you are creating the monetization in your podcast. Yeah. Totally.
It opens the door, one, for you to be, collaborate with other content creators because you have content of your own, but also people reaching out to you, starting the conversation, and you have a reason to talk to people. I think that's the most underlooked part of having a podcast for ways to monetize it, is because it gives you a non-threatening way to talk to people.
Yeah, and it opens the door.
Because you have a podcast.
Yeah, it opens the door. You don't know them, but they know you because they've been listening to your podcast, so they know so much more about you. And that really opens the door and makes them want to come and to ask the questions and, and share. It's amazing what comes from that, just in people saying, oh, I listened to this episode and this is what I got from it, So I love that.
Yeah. Cool. So are you doing anything else to monetize? Are you having people... Do people have ads on your podcast or sponsors on your podcast?
Yeah, so that's the other way that I do that is I have created ad spots on my podcast. And each one is, they're not all filled right now, actually, because I am very particular about, who I'm promoting, which is why I don't want to get into like big sponsorships. But yeah, so I've created a few different ad spots for 6 months or 1 year. So we have 6 different spots. And so we have the pre-roll, which goes off right in the beginning, right after the, intro. And then we have the mid-roll, which drops right in between. So we have kind of a segment in the podcast where we stop with the education part and we move into some stories about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we drop a mid-roll right there. And it's so great because everyone is like sitting on the edge of their seat. Like, now I can't wait to hear the dirt. And then boom, we drop that ad. And that's the most valuable one. And then of course we have the end roll, and that is right before the outro, where we can have, whatever we want to promote there. So that's how we do it. Each one, of course, is more valuable than the next, so the prices vary depending on which one you take. But our mid-roll is taken for the year, so that has been the most popular one. Yeah.
Sure. And what is that? That's the most expensive one. What does that one cost?
It's for the year.
For
yep. And
the year.
they get a 30 to 40-second advertisement, and it's right in the middle of the podcast, halfway through. Yeah.
Cool. So how do you go about selling an $8,000 yearly mid-roll package?
Once you sell one, then people come to you and they want to know, like, how can I get on there? So that makes it really easy. But, I think the biggest thing is it needs to be somebody, again, who shares the same target market that I share. So that's the most important thing, so that we are drawing the right people and attracting the right market.
Sure. Awesome. Well, we're out of time here, Kamie, so I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
KamieLehmann.com. That's where everything is. And, of course, the She's Invincible podcast. Thank you.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
Thanks so much, Kamie. You too. Bye.